And we are live. Hello and welcome to another review from the Benefit of the Doud podcast. I'm your host, Adam Doud, and joining me I don't really have an appropriate introduction here, but joining me from the fiery depths of hell is Clifton Thomas. Cliff, how you doing this evening?
I feel like I'm more in like Hades right now. I'm like in that in between, and the heat's on, but I haven't hit hell yet, but I will be soon.
I also feel like when I ask how you doing this evening, I think that's a question that I'm going to need to ask you several more times before the end of this podcast. We are reviewing the OnePlus 11, which is OnePlus's latest flagship phone. I've got mine, and you've got yours. There it is, and somehow yours looks nicer than mine. I don't know why that is, but anyway.
Well, you've got a different back on it than I do. You've got a different case.
Oh, do you have a case on there?
Yes.
Is that
I have the Aramid. So these are, as you can see in the video here, two different cases that are OnePlus manufactured that you can get with it. His is the classic.
This is not a case, by the way. This is just the phone.
This
is the naked.
I thought you had the green one for some reason.
No, I do have cases. I just don't use them because to me the cases are just as slippery as the phone. So my case is good old reliable gaffer's tape.
Gaffer's tape.
That goes on that goes on the back.
Yeah. So I have the same color that you do, and I actually really like that finish, and did not find it that slippery. But
I do. But anyway,
physics are just different here in Virginia than they are in Illinois.
That's the rumor. You don't even have physics. You barely have pavement.
We haven't discovered the wheel yet, but that's okay. So yeah, this is the Aramid fiber, also known as carbon fiber-ish case for it. I really do like it though. It's I've had a case kind of similar to this from later case from the guys at Lou. What is this channel called? Unbox Therapy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is straight from OnePlus. I like it. I dig it. In general, OnePlus cases are pretty nice, I have to say.
Yeah, in general. Anyway, so why we discussed the fiery depths of hell, and the reason for that is, and this has actually been kind of stewing in the backs of our brains for a while now, and I'm not entirely sure why. Just for the record, folks, this is all Cliff. But Cliff also took it upon himself to order the One Chip Challenge chip. And if you want to show that, there it is. And now normally for the One Chip Challenge, the idea is you eat the chip, and then the challenge is to see how long you can survive without drinking anything, without drinking water, or I think in your case, Diet Coke or whatever. So we're gonna make
laying around.
We're gonna put a twist on that, and we're gonna see how far into the review Cliff can get before he caves and grabs his drink. And my money is somewhere between software and hardware. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Here's the problem. I've just thought about this.
I mean, I can think of a lot of problems here, but okay.
Well, but I am not directly reviewing the phone. I have a feeling you'll probably, well, we're both reviewing it.
Yeah.
But you as the host control how long the review is. So if you really wanted to torture me,
well,
you could just make it as long as you wanted.
It's not like I put money down on it, but
that we know of.
No. I think we'll continue. This is. I mean, I've already reviewed the phone for Slash Gear, so technically this is kind of the Cliff show. I'm just kind of here because I happen to be using it too.
Yeah, I'm glad because you have though brought Skippy, the review cam, along, which we'll have him up in a little bit because I'm going to have blue chip hands, and I will not want to be touching the phone.
Well, you're going to have to touch the phone. But first, you're going to have to touch that chip. So why don't we just go ahead and jump in? We're 5 minutes in, and nobody is crying yet. So
I wanted to show that I actually have not even opened this. I don't know what it looks inside. You can see let's see if I can turn the reflection there. You can actually see the tape on it.
Hey, Cliff.
Right on the sides. The trolling has already begun, and I haven't even eaten the chip yet. I do have
fresh, tasty Aquafina.
I do have a nice fresh can of Diet
This
Coke here.
podcast not brought to you by Aquafina.
No, we're Diet Coke.
Not even.
Although you would think it is based on how often I drink Diet Coke on the show. But all right, so
We should.
unboxing the
Unboxing.
One Chip Challenge 2022.
Yep.
I'm gonna try to do this well.
That's how long we've been thinking about this. It's
It
the
is,
2022
actually.
chip.
So here's what it says.
Okay.
What to expect.
Nothing
1,
good.
tongue takeover. 2, shock the senses. 3, surge of tears. 4, jolt to the gut. 5, voltage overload.
We have no idea how this review is going to go, by the way. And I think, like, on the one hand, I want to apologize in advance, but on the other hand, I think if anybody, I think we should apologize to OnePlus on this.
I don't know. I mean,
But
we're just implying the phone is hot. So here's the chip inside the package, and then it
That's
comes
true.
with
that is some
much like
hotness.
a phone. It actually comes with,
a
some
polishing
packaging.
cloth. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so here's technically the rules for the challenge.
Okay.
Eat
I'm
the
listening.
entire chip.
All
Prove
right.
it. Show us your tongue.
Oh, don't
Wait
do
as
that.
long as possible before drinking or eating anything.
Mhm.
Post your reaction on social media with One Chip Challenge and mention Pocky Chips. Well,
Check. Okay.
yeah, there we go. So, setting this down.
I would like just like to point out, I don't think anybody's ever done this before.
I was kind of hoping they had, but oh look, let's see. Oh, nice! It comes with a little sign that you hold up.
Oh, okay.
If you've completed it. So here's the chip once again. It's supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
I actually, before we started recording, was watching the Irish channel Try. It's not the Try Guys, but Try, and
okay.
watching them do it, and I'm not excited.
You think you're not excited now? Wait until tomorrow morning.
Weird. It has like a blueberry smell, which I guess makes sense because it's blue. But it's actually in little pieces here.
So do we want to like 1, 2, 3 it, or like how do you want to do
Yeah,
it?
because I've got to eat the whole thing.
You do. So, all right. So am I counting down for you
Pray
then?
for me.
Okay. All right. Again, not endorsed by me. This is all Cliff. I'm just
Right.
I'm just here for the ride, folks. Just like you. So we have given this no thought whatsoever. This podcast may be over in 5 minutes. We do not know.
I could die.
You could.
I mean, this smells potent. I'm just going to tell you right now.
I think arguably would also be a first for a phone review. But
it's definitely the literally spiciest food review that we've ever done anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but here we go.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Eat that bitch.
Oh,
so
God.
let's bring up Skippy the review cam. Oh, while he starts chewing, and you can see I have my OnePlus naked OnePlus phone here. I like how you're frantically eating these. Like I need to get these down.
See? Look, blue.
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, the OnePlus. So
Oh dear Lord.
The thing about the OnePlus phone, the OnePlus 11 is, I found it to be very slippery. Cliff didn't, but I mean, honestly, the exclamation point on the back of this phone is this huge camera bump, because there are 3 different cameras in here, and I want to say they're all fairly substantial. I don't remember off the top of my head. The main one's 50, I know that, and then 48 megapixel ultra wide and a 32 megapixel telephoto lens, telephoto zoom lens, which is like a 2x optical. We'll talk about the camera in more depth later.
Here come tears.
Okay, on the front, you've got a very nice 6.7-inch display. It is a 2K display, and it is goes up to 120 hertz, which,
PTO.
by the way, I still don't care about. But how did you find like just the whole overall snappiness of the phone?
It's extremely fast.
Yeah. You're gonna have to elaborate on that more.
I'm trying.
I know. Try harder.
Oh my God.
Pardon me while I take a little sip.
Oh my God.
So tasty. Now, continue.
My nose running.
Yeah, it's fast.
It is very fast. Very responsive.
Okay.
I find I find Oxygen OS to be a much better experience than the last time I used it on the OnePlus 9.
Okay.
Closer to when I had the 7T. You know, if you remember, I said after the 9 and then after the 10 Pro came, or the 10T came out, when they started removing things like the slider, I really felt like they had lost their way, and it might be the last time they ever buy a OnePlus phone. So
yeah, well, the slider is back.
They've rectified that in one generation.
Yeah.
And they needed to, because OnePlus doesn't seem to have any carrier relationships in North America anymore.
Right. That's a bit of a problem.
Oh my God, my head is buzzing.
What's the problem? I don't understand. We're just doing a phone review,
I am
man. You've done 100 of
sweating.
These. No, that's okay. You're fine. You look great.
And you know, one thing I really like about, I'll just say, obviously I said it's fast.
Yeah.
I like the aspect ratio
of
the phone. The narrowness of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a OnePlus signature. I've only seen on other BBK phones.
Yeah, and what is the aspect ratio on that? Is it 21:9? It's 20:9. 20:9.
It's wider than a Sony flagship, like
very slightly. Yeah.
But it's still, compared to the wide iPhone 14 Pro Max that I have, it's much easier to handle.
Okay.
Granted, I do have a bulky case on the iPhone.
Okay, Cubs are losing in the top of the 9th, but there's 2 men on and only 1 out, so there's hope.
I wish I was there with a cold beer.
A cold beer? A nice, cold, refreshing Bud Light, perhaps? So, okay. All right. So, like, one thing that, like, kind of struck me is I think, like, normally I don't really care about the 120 hertz display. OnePlus is the only one where I think I kind of see it. I still don't care a whole heck of a lot, but I think I do kind of see it. So there's that. It is a very smooth experience. Don't you think?
Very smooth.
Yeah.
One might see it's fiery fast.
Do you use the slider, the silent slider? No, I do it when
right now.
Are you? Okay. Did you have it on silent so in case somebody calls?
Correct.
Now, you've been using this phone as your daily driver along with the iPhone.
Correct. Since its release, basically.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Yeah. So I was using it for the past month, leading up to the release of my OnePlus Pad review, which just went live on /gear.com, so you can check that out. One thing I was a little disappointed about was this phone will have the same type of connectivity with the OnePlus Pad as like an iPhone, where it can automatically share the internet connection. So, but that's not shipping until June, which I found to be very unfortunate. So what about the software? Like, I've never really been like one. I think
it's to me somewhere between Pixel and Samsung in terms of customization.
Okay.
I like this version of Oxygen OS / Color OS better than what I've used on my Realme.
Okay.
And as I said, I like the ability to. I mean, OnePlus has always been an OS. Their version of Android, you could always customize pretty heavily if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And it does have, the nice touches like that I really do want in an Android phone, like Google's swipe to the right shelf of Google Discover or whatever they're calling it now.
Right, definitely.
Do you use the shelf?
No, never.
I don't either.
I absolutely do not.
I sometimes accidentally swipe into it. And then I'm like, what is this?
What did I do? You know what I particularly like, though? And I don't know why. It's such a stupid thing. But I like customizing the icons. Like, I was just kind of showing you like how you can do that. Like, you can go into a custom.
It's got
and you
built-in
can pick
themes,
like
too, that customize them, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, like you can pick like the stop sign or the rounded, the squircles, or you can go like pretty much round. You can also do like material design, which is just like the icons by themselves. I particularly like the point at opposite corners.
That's
I
not
don't.
really for me. I like the squircles or the circle, but
You like the
that's
squircles?
why
Okay.
there are multiple versions for.
Yeah, and I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I know that's not like specifically unique to OnePlus, and the reason I didn't have that actually set up was because I moved out of this phone. Because I was actually going to send it to Cliff for a little bit there, but then he ended up buying one, so I moved back in, and so I just never got around to switching it. But the animations in between the pages, I've got this this round one right now, which I always
Kind of
which I
reminds
always
me
kind
of
of.
the things that it has in it in terms of like almost remind me of some of the custom launchers that you could buy.
Yeah, totally. You know what? Speaking
Like
of custom
Apex
launchers, my brother has been using Microsoft's launcher for a long time now. And the one thing that he likes two things about it, and I can't
I
really
hate you.
refute. Why is that? Because I didn't need a chip? Well, then, yeah.
No.
Anyway, so like the thing that he liked about it was this dock of icons there with the Microsoft launcher. You can actually swipe up and get 2 rows. Which is kind of cool. And those are, persistent regardless of what homepage you're on. But also you can back up all your settings to the cloud and it will automatically put those, all your folders back together and stuff like that. I think I need to give that a shot.
Yeah.
It was just an aside.
It's
of course.
It's definitely better if you're a heavy, at least with the Microsoft Surface Duo.
Right.
I used it because it is using that launcher.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's a better experience if you're heavily into Microsoft services.
Right.
Which, makes sense on the Surface Duo, and then if you're going to use a Microsoft launcher. So.
Right.
But yeah, I find the software to be very pleasant. Again, lots of customization options available. And oh my God, my breath is so hot. It's like I'm breathing fire.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, totally.
You're doing okay.
I'm great. But then they have things like, I guess experimental features that you can turn on, which are kind of fun.
Okay.
I have those turned off just because they're basically beta. But again, a lot of different ways to customize the software, which I think goes back to the core ethos of OnePlus, which is user oriented. So
yeah, like, and they do a lot. They do a lot of the stuff. The OnePlus. The OnePlus does a lot of the stuff that I like. I'm here in the settings. You got the raise to wake and the double tap to turn on and off. Those are always good. And those are not ubiquitous to all
Correct.
Android phones. I miss those when you don't have them.
And it certainly feels less heavy-handed than in the out of the box customizations and amount of software that you get on something like One UI.
Right. I hate this pocket mistouch prevention. I need to turn that off because it's like you'll want to do something. It's like, oh no, you can't hold the phone up by the top, so stop it. But yeah, like, so the software, it is pretty customizable. I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of customizing, although as I say that, I'm like, oh, I customize my icons and I customize my transition.
It's certainly not necessary with the phone, but it is there if you want to do it.
Right. Right.
I give kudos to OnePlus for committing to, is it 3 or 4 OS level updates?
I want to say it's 4 and then 5 for security updates.
That's what I thought. Like they nearly or did match Samsung in that regard, which was another problem I had with OnePlus a few years ago.
Yeah,
because they were headed towards near, I think, Motorola levels of not supporting their devices.
Right.
In terms of software updates. And so I think right now it's like a bi-monthly security update cadence, which that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not absolutely a pixel. I don't expect that. So
sorry, that was some tasty water there. But I also dig the always on display. I mentioned that as it popped up because I had set the phone down.
I say my face is now trembling. Like,
is it?
My muscles are actually spasming.
It doesn't show. And may I say, you are doing remarkably well under the circumstances.
It hasn't hit like the pain hasn't hit my stomach yet, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Although I would think it would have got there by now. But anyway, continue, Mansoor.
Could turn into a problem. So
yeah, if I run away, that's why.
Okay, well that's fair. I'll just carry things on from there. So, did you have anything more that you wanted to talk about the software? I mean, I think we covered a lot of it.
Some of it we could talk about when it comes to the camera.
Oh, you want to go camera? Okay.
Well, if we're talking about hardware, you go in the order you feel is best. I mean, I don't have too much to say except, the Hasselblad tuning is nice. The options that you have for the sort of film looks. I will say I don't use them that often because you have to dig into the settings a little bit.
Right, that's true.
Now, I don't have them in front of me, so maybe you can tell the camera specs. In terms of focal length and megapixels.
Oh, you want to get all the fancy specs. Okay, so the main camera is 50 megapixels with an f over 1.8 aperture, and that is set to 24 millimeters wide, for what that means. Then the telephoto camera is a 32 megapixel telephoto camera. Now OnePlus specifically wants to use that telephoto camera more for portrait mode than they do for like actually zooming in, which is a choice I'm not fond of, but that's okay. And then finally, there's a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera with a f over 2.2 aperture and 115 degrees field of view, which is respectable. I think you're gonna see ultra wide cameras are gonna be somewhere between 110 and 120. So this falls right in the middle there. So
now I found the color consistency to be pretty consistent between the three different cameras, which I don't know if I'd be able to say for previous OnePluses that I've used. Granted, that was generations ago, but still.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't. The color consistency was quite good. In fact, if I remember correctly, didn't I do a TikTok for the OnePlus 11 camera? I think I did. But anyway,
one of three that you've created.
Right. Now, be nice now. Come on, TikTok content is hard
right now.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so like the color consistency between the three cameras is very accurate. There's really no deviation. And when the lighting's good, you're gonna, I said in my review, you're gonna have trouble trying to shoot a bad photo.
Absolutely, I agree.
So you're just going to pull out the camera and snap a photo. Like one in particular, I use my dogs as subjects for this particular review, mainly because I can't get my daughter to pose for a camera anymore. But, dogs move around a lot. So the shots that I got were very solid considering the moving subjects, although I was a little bit bummed out that burst mode is limited to 20 photos at a time. So because when you're limited to 20 photos, you really need to nail the timing. You can't just like, I've been known to shoot like 100 frame burst modes just to make sure I get what I want, plenty of lead time, plenty of out time. So, but I mean, if you just want to, you could, oh wait, no, I forgot. Hang on. How do you
switch to it? Don't you?
No, you have to like drag or something, or
otherwise it starts doing video.
Yeah,
it's just frustrating.
Grr. Okay, well, I can go into the settings. I think I can actually switch that. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, so yeah, I absolutely agree. In my experience, this is actually my mouse not burning as much as it was. Oh, no, it is because I wasn't talking. No, it all makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Stop talking. Okay. So I switched it so that pushing and holding the shutter button does.
There we go.
So, and you go up to 20 and you stop. So if you want to watch that again, I'm gonna have like so many extra photos on this phone right now, but
have fun deleting all of those.
Yeah, right. So if you just can you see it? Okay, no, you can't. There we go. Is it blurry? Looks
a little
like
bit, but it's legible.
Okay, I don't know if that's gonna help, but 20 and you stop.
I can see that. I can see that at 20. Is that something that's adjustable? I don't think it is. I didn't do a whole lot of burst mode with it. I only did one with my daughter when she was on the swing.
Okay,
I got reasonably good photos with that. I will say though, the Pixel 6 and beyond has ruined me for burst mode. Because they have, I forget what it is, but it's like they'll actually it takes a video and then like it'll sub in the face using AI. It basically does like a composite photo.
Yeah,
to give you the best, which it's amazing. And everything else, everyone else just, in my opinion, hasn't caught up to Google's computational photography swag yet. But yeah, in general, in daylight and even in what I would call less than perfect light, the photos are you're going to get a photo most of the time that you're going to be very happy with. Now, I cannot say the same for moving subjects in low light. Where low light, I thought the low light photography in general, especially for like a still some if you're taking like a neon lit bar, right, from the outside and you're capturing that, I found that to be, just as an example, something that it captures as well as like the S22 Ultra or my Pixel 6. However, moving subjects, not that any camera is excellent at it, but I never, again, dogs, cats, children, in my poorly lit house, because it's, again, 100 years old.
Right.
It's kind of hard to get something that you can use because I just most of the time get a facial blur.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One thing I did want to point out is you can capture 8K resolution with the camera, which is nice. I believe it is 30 frames per second. Yeah, 24 frames per second. Sorry,
which is technically, that's broadcast TV. So
right, and you could do 4K 60, which is nice.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because some people care about shooting in 8K. I don't, but sure. Actually, honestly, most of my videos I do in 1080p.
Yeah, I do too. I don't, for one thing, because I upload everything to Google Photos.
Google Photos, right.
And I'm paying for storage so that I can keep the original quality photos. And photos most of the time matter for me more than video.
Me too. Like, so much. Like, I barely shoot video. The only time I shoot video is when I'm testing cameras, honestly.
Right, exactly. I mean, sometimes it's fun. Oh, good. The cat has brought me a bundle of socks.
Okay.
To substitute for a mouse.
All right. There's a substitute for a glass of water, too.
It's hitting my stomach now. I can feel it. It's a burning sensation, yeah.
Do we need to fast forward a little bit, or?
No, I'm all right. No, I'm
okay,
right now.
Good.
Honestly, so far, this is like the hottest wings I've ever had. Like, nearly unbearable. But I've kind of powered my way through the initial horribleness.
Right. Well, strap on that space diaper. We're going to the end here. Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say the camera is, I would say, like, I was kind of surprised at like how good it was, because OnePlus traditionally, up until like the OnePlus, I would say,
like the 9 Pro.
I can't remember if it was the 9 or the 10, but one of them had like a surprisingly good camera, and you're like, oh, so OnePlus figured this out. And I want to say it was the 10 because it wasn't the first year of Hasselblad. No, maybe it was the first year of Hasselblad. Or no, wait, OnePlus 10 was the first year of Hasselblad. God, I don't remember.
No, I think it was the 9 Pro was the 9
was
Pro.
It yeah.
I think both I think the 9 and the 9 Pro are technically both Hasselblad branded, but
very possible.
That partnership really wasn't anything more than filters.
Right.
Didn't really seem to have much in the software tuning department. Yeah, I mean, whether it's
there's the 9 Pro,
right, and
there's the 10T, and there's the 10. Okay.
Whether it's the Hasselblad's expertise and more time to work with Oppo/OnePlus on their camera tuning, or it's just OnePlus getting better at camera software and computational photography.
Yep.
Yeah. This is definitely by far the best OnePlus camera I've used with the 11.
Yeah, sure enough, Hasselblad branding right there on the 9 Pro. So, yeah, it's been there since the 9 Pro. Good memory, Cliff. I knew it was one of it too. And I want to say, I think it was the 9 Pro that I was actually finally ready to say, oh, okay, they've kind of figured out cameras now.
There is some comfort level, I have to say. Like, I recently sold my Pixel 6 because I have the OnePlus 11 now, and I would not have done that if I didn't trust the OnePlus 11 camera.
Hmm.
It also does help to many times be carrying an iPhone too, so I have my choice of cameras, that are good, and
Right.
one probably Apple for video if I really have to if somebody put a gun to my head. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find just going back to I want to talk about hardware again real quick, and that
Okay,
like I
sure.
said, now that my hands are just actually I'll just use my left hand
There you go.
again. That narrow aspect ratio. I mean, this is a tall phone,
Mm-hmm.
but very easy, at least for me. I mean, I would say I have like medium sized hands.
Yeah, they got little baby hands, so
Uh, you know, it to me is a very pleasant phone to handle. And then I'm not sure if we mentioned this at the beginning, but as of now, I still think the only model you can get in the United States, I could be wrong, is the 16 gigabytes of RAM version of it.
I believe that is correct.
And
So
and
yeah.
so if you bought this phone right when it was launched, you got, and that may still be the case. I don't know. I haven't been to OnePlus's website in a while, but
Mm-hmm.
they uh, they gave you the 16 gigabyte. Is it 512 or 256 gigabytes RAM? I think it's 256.
If it's 16 gigabytes, it is 256. It's available in 256 or
Or
512.
512. Okay.
So it could go either
OnePlus is
way.
funny about that. They'll announce multiple SKUs for North America, and then sometimes they just will never have it in stock, especially
Right.
the lower end models. I don't know why that is, but
Right.
maybe it's a cost savings thing in the end. But I I feel like 16 gigabytes of RAM, while it sounds like overkill, I mean the phone just never feels. But I guess between the sort of aggressive um, garbage collecting and just killing of apps in the background,
Mm-hmm.
which Chinese OEMs are
Kind of notorious for.
notorious for. Although OnePlus seems less aggressive about it than like Xiaomi, as an example.
And
Between that and the 16 gigabytes of RAM, oh, and it ships with virtual RAM turned on, 4 gigabytes of virtual RAM turned on as well. So it ships
right.
with 20.
Right.
Now I actually turned that off simply because I do plan on keeping this phone for a while, and supposedly that's not good for SSDs.
Oh,
To
okay.
as
Good to
far
know.
because you're using that as your swap,
Yeah, and you can only
and you're
use
writing to the
SSDs
disk.
like so many times right
Right.
before they. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah, that makes sense. But
so probably
for the
would never. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say you probably
yeah.
would never in the time if you're someone like us who keeps a phone maybe a couple of years, you probably would never notice it, but it's still not healthy for the phone.
Right.
It's just kind of like best practices for charging. You do it a certain way.
For the record, in the United States, you can buy the 8 gigabyte, 128 gigabyte,
Oh,
or the 16 256. But I believe when the phone first
yeah. When it
launched,
launched,
when you bought it, I believe they were giving you that free upgrade.
yes, they were. It was upgraded
So
from 8. It's so funny that it goes from not from 12 to 16, but from 8 to 16. So they
right,
literally double the RAM.
right.
Now I know that this is using. I think it's LPPT. I forget what the kind of RAM it uses, or the storage it uses rather. It's DDR5. I know that. I
Right.
believe, but then
Yeah,
it's got a newer faster as far as the write and read speeds
you mean the
of
UFS 4.0?
UFS 4. Yes, there we go.
Again, with the 128 gigabyte version,
You
that's
don't get that,
UFS 3.1.
right?
With anything else, it's UFS
Right.
4.0.
Which I don't. I mean that I guess it would just be a cost savings,
Yeah, probably.
in addition to having the RAM. But
Indeed.
yeah, very fast phone, as OnePlus has kind of always have been for a long time. And I also feel like this is the first time in a while where they have sort of returned to flagship killer status. I know that's a term that's
I
overused.
don't know about flagship killer. I think it's just safe to just call it a flagship by itself.
Well, I
Like,
guess when you talk about, but when you talk about pricing,
yeah, I mean,
or maybe it's like right on that cusp of
yeah,
high end, mid range to lower price flagship.
well, yeah, but I mean, the specifications are solidly flagship. There's no question
Oh
about
no,
that.
no,
But
absolutely
when it comes to pricing, I mean, it's only $100 less than the vanilla Samsung Galaxy S23. It's right on par with the iPhone 14, not Max,
true.
whatever they
However,
call that.
when
So
you start putting it in comparison, right? This is a bigger screen for your money. It has double the RAM of what Samsung gives you, I think, across the board, even if you get the Ultra.
Yeah.
I think if you get the 1 terabyte version of the S23 Ultra, you might get 12 gigabytes of RAM, or the 512. One of those. At some point, possibly. I think you do get more RAM. But, I mean, it's a hell of a lot more phone for less money.
Yeah.
And there's no caveat now of like, well, Samsung supports their phones for a lot longer.
Right. Although it's funny, like right after I was just about to bring up the Motorola Edge Plus that they just announced, which, if I remember correctly, ships with, I want to say it's 12 gigabytes of RAM, and I think it's a base 512 gigabyte storage.
That's something Motorola's been doing for their unlocked flagships. Like I have the Motorola 30 Plus from last year.
But that is also $100 above. Well, so it's right on par with the next tier, with the 256 tier of OnePlus phone. So, I mean, arguably, that might be a better deal, although we'll have to wait for reviews.
The Motorola?
Yeah, for the Motorola.
We'll see.
I mean, we'll have to wait until Cliff trades in his OnePlus 11 to buy the Motorola Edge Plus.
It seems like Motorola, as an aside, is finally figuring out that you don't need to price it $200 more than you're going to end up retailing it for.
Right. It feels that way. We'll see what ends up happening. But the one last thing that we have to talk about with the OnePlus 11 is the battery and the charging. Now,
yes.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have no idea how long the OnePlus 11 lasts on a single charge, because I never, when I am using a OnePlus phone, and this has become standard for like the past 3 generations of OnePlus phones, I don't charge it overnight. I just charge it when it gets low.
Yep.
And like
part of that is, first of all, because this phone is not shipped with wireless charging. So you don't have the option to just casually set it on your charger next to your desk and leave it there.
So,
I mean, if there's one feature it's missing, it's
hardware-wise. That is definitely a feature.
But going back to what you were talking about, which we mentioned the specs and everything, I feel like the charging solution, which, by the way, they do include in the box, really does make up for it. I thought I was honestly going to miss wireless charging, and with what they offer,
it's
I really
80-watt charging, which is just
125 watt, isn't it?
The OnePlus 11 was 80. I believe the OnePlus 10T was 125. I could be wrong.
I swear, I thought, I don't want to type on my keyboard.
And don't forget there are also international variants that have higher, like US variants have slower charging speeds than international variants.
I think it's 100 watt.
Well, that's possible, but I want to say I'm fairly certain it's 80. But because
it is 80, you're absolutely right. The wait a minute.
It's also what?
Well,
it's also,
I'm looking at Tom's guide right now. And okay, so it ships with 100 watt internationally and 80 watt in the United States. Okay,
in the United States, right?
So I was completely confused.
It also ships with a USB-A to USB-C cable, which is okay. So OnePlus said well, it's not strange. I mean, it is strange, but OnePlus's way of explaining it was more computers have USB Type A ports. So if you just want to grab your cable and charge your phone, then that's going to be more compatible than the USB-C port, which is a fair argument. But honestly, when you can charge your phone from empty till full in 20 minutes, nobody needs that.
But go back and look at the chargers, if you still have them, that came with the last 4 phones. And I'm not saying you should do it now, but they have switched from USB-A at the charger side to USB-C, and now back to USB-A.
And then back to USB-A. Absolutely,
That's what I mean by being strange. I'm sure there's an engineering reason behind it as well.
Yeah. I mean, it might just be to keep costs down.
By the way, the one thing I do, I'll say first of all, I love the OnePlus unboxing experience.
Okay.
Their packaging is still so nice. It's not quite as nice as it used to be. I really miss when the packaging was like, it almost looked like the Apple Watch box, but taller.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
longer,
yeah.
narrow, and you would have like just a bunch of bundled stuff with it. And now the box is more of your standard, which I'm sure this has something to do with if you want to, you know, right, exactly.
Yeah.
It takes up less shelf space, all that
Yeah.
kind of good stuff. But OnePlus phones have, I know this is weird, but it's funny. As a kid, I still remember like, well, I'll get certain smells when I unbox something and it comes out, and it's like it's probably the polyurethane or the the plastics that are used in it. But certain brands just have like Volkswagen cars, whatever they use for their interiors, even now still has a distinctive smell. OnePlus, when
Okay.
you open that box and it wafts out, and they've got that sort of almost like crepe paper plastic that goes around it.
By the way, speaking of the charger,
there it is.
You know what's funny? I was looking for my OnePlus 11 charger. You know what? I reboxed it so I could send it to you, and I never unboxed it again. That's why it's in the box. Okay. Because I mean, you could tell by this. This was not.
Yeah.
This is not shipped like this.
Which is funny. They're very proud of their red cable. In fact, their
Red Cable Club.
You can join their Red Cable Club. Yeah, and that's their charging cables have looked like that since the original OnePlus One.
I've been looking for my charging cable for the.
It was
OnePlus.
actually in the box the whole time.
Well, I've been using this guy, which is I think the OnePlus 10T or something. But
that's interesting. That one looked like an Apple charger.
No, it's the.
But look how see how it's rounded on the corners.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Oh, this one is not. Okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah, it's just they've changed their industrial design for the. Or maybe it's changed their supplier. Yeah, I wonder if that's what it is. Maybe it's the supplier for the charger.
Oh, that could be. But what's funny is I was like actually getting mad at my kids because I thought one of them stole my charger. So
good.
Whoops.
Dad. Good dadding.
Yeah.
Well, guys, other than a runny nose, like I'm feeling all right.
Okay. Good.
Weird. I thought it would.
You lived.
I did. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't horrible because it absolutely was.
Right. And
oh
truth
my
be
God.
told, Cliff has wanted to do this for a long time.
Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it again.
No.
I don't know. I might next year.
Okay. There you go.
Once a year, it's not that bad.
This could be a OnePlus tradition.
I mean, look, I actually changed my mic to a new one, and it's got a red clown nose on it.
Okay.
For the OnePlus Red. I have fire in the background.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I have a red face from being overheated by the chip.
That's awesome.
By the way, that was just one chip. I mean, it's a large tortilla chip, but still.
Right. Oh no.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
I don't know if you saw that blue tongue. It's kind of as much as it was, but
yeah, it is a little.
Yeah. So going back to the phone, I have been pleasantly surprised. I mean, I did read some early impressions of it. I won't lie, and talk to you about it before I ended up ordering it. But yeah, and there was some trepidation, some hesitation, but I could actually see this being my main Android phone for the next year or more. Ooh. I really like it that much.
Okay.
And I love the hardware design of the bezel or the face of the camera bump on the back.
Yeah, I dig that too, because like there's a lot of subtleties to it. There's a lot, not only is it a prominent bump by itself, but around the edge there's like chamfering, and like on the inside there's like some pattern around like each of the lenses. Like it can really play with the light a little bit, which is kind of fun.
It is. And I do enjoy that the large Hasselblad branding on it. And I also thought it was interesting that the rails on the side are aluminum, but aluminum, and the housing for the camera is stainless steel.
Oh, okay.
Which is why if you look at it, it's two separate pieces.
Right.
Versus like the S21 or the S21 where it actually flowed into the what are you doing? Picking hairs off of it?
There's like a hair that's like wedged in between the back of the phone and it's so maddening. Anyway, I will ignore it for the rest of this review, but then I will go crazy on it after we.
And you know how Motorola has the little, or they used to have the little indentation like on the Moto X, the original Moto X, and then
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
for quite a while they had that little indentation right where
Mhm.
your finger would go. Well, this has that
The
contrasting
OnePlus logo.
finish. Yeah, so that is glass that you see. It's just a contrasting finish from
Mhm.
that sandstone finish that's on the back of it, but it's still all glass. And I find myself when I'm holding it and I don't have a case, just kind of rubbing it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
I can see that.
it's just like that. It's just that like the little nipple on the back of the reverse nipple on the back of Motorola phones. It's funny in the same way that like the nothing ear ones become a fidget toy, or the ear
Yeah,
twos
yeah,
for that
yeah.
matter.
Totally get that. So I don't want to transition off of charging too quickly though, because I feel like
Yeah,
we didn't
absolutely.
spend
I kind of took us off the path there.
and that's okay. But I mean, like, one thing that I like about fast charging is that it fundamentally changes your philosophy when it comes to charging, because like your phone doesn't need to charge overnight. It doesn't matter if your phone can last a day or not, because you can plug in your phone, and in the time that it takes you to put your shoes and socks
Right.
on, you've got 50%
15%.
back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you want to let out the dogs, by the time you bring them back in, your phone is completely charged. It doesn't matter what your phone is charges at, because you can plug it in for like 5 minutes and get an insane amount of battery life back from it. And I love that.
I do
I
too.
and I it's such a stupid thing to be your Halo feature, but it really is a Halo feature, and it is like fundamentally life changing when you can do that. Like Samsung, Apple, even Motorola none of them have adopted really fast charging.
Motorola, their latest one that I have has 60-watt charging, so it's
Did it have
better.
60 watt?
It's
Okay,
60 watts,
okay.
so it's better.
Um,
But that's the Edge 30 Plus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Apple and Samsung, like and Samsung, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little trepidation on their part, because they kind of have a history with batteries, if you know what I mean.
This is very true.
Um,
It is funny how most of the high rate charging chargers actually come from Chinese OEMs.
yeah, it is. But I mean, think about it. Man, if you had, can you imagine how much time Apple would spend on a presentation if they had a phone that could charge in
Oh,
15 minutes?
they'd have a invitation that somehow had like electricity
Oh
near
my
the
God.
bolts, somehow hint at it, and
And
then oh yeah, and then they would talk about the design of the charger.
And
And
can you imagine
here's
how much Apple would love to sell you $100
oh
65-watt
yeah,
charger?
oh they probably be 150.
You think it'd be that 150? Yeah, I could see that.
Well, what they would
But
do is I think that they would sell it as one that you can charge both your MacBook and your phone with.
yeah, probably.
Which
Um,
here's a curious thing, right? So what is nice about having an 80-watt charger like we have here with OnePlus is that technically it's going to also charge just about any laptop.
oh, not
Uh,
technically. I do use it for that.
which right. So if you do travel, if you just want to take one charger with you,
You can do that.
this is going to except it won't charge my Surface, my Surface X, Surface Pro X, right? Which
Really?
is it's the SQ1, the first generation.
Does that not support USB-C charging?
It has USB, and it supports
Right.
USB charging,
Really?
USB-C charging. But
But it doesn't.
when I plug it into this particular charger, and I only found this out by I left it overnight plugged into that charger, and I came back and it was dead.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so I tried
so
it again.
weird.
It's really weird, and I wonder if it has something to do with like voltage safety or something. Just something about what's coming out of that, like it wasn't talking to it right, and so it just wouldn't take a charge. Like,
Yeah, maybe. I
but
don't know.
I mean, it's an ARM based laptop. You would think
Yeah.
that and it's Qualcomm. Like you would think that it would have things in there to basically go. And granted, it's not Qualcomm charging the Super VOOC
Mm-hmm.
from Oppo. It's like their own proprietary thing. But I wouldn't expect it to charge at the 80-watt, and it shouldn't need that anyway. Like
Yeah.
you would think it probably doesn't charge more than like 30. But anyway,
Yeah.
it was weird.
That
I
is
have
weird.
charged other things. I have charged other phones and it's been fine. So it was just that one experience. But yeah, very strange. Oh, I was about to wipe
So,
my eyes.
Just to wrap up the charging thing, I want to throw some numbers at you, and these are numbers from my review
And
on
we didn't mention
SlashGear,
it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah, and so it lasts for frickin' ever. But these are numbers that you can find in my review of on slashgear.com, link in the show notes. But so 36 hours, 46 minutes, it dropped 89%, and I put 47% back into it in 10 minutes, which took it back up to 58%. That lasted 19 hours and 12 minutes. And I plugged it in for 24 minutes, and that went from 17% to full. And then that lasted for 21 hours, 18 minutes, which took it down to 25%. I plugged it in for another 11 minutes, which charged it up to 78%. That lasted 27 hours, 29 minutes, down to 20%. I plugged it in for 23 minutes and got to 98%. And that lasted 28 hours and 40 minutes, taking it down to 20%. And I plugged it in for 18 minutes, and that got it back up to 100.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, and, that's over a course of like 5 days. I plugged it in, I probably plugged it in roughly about every 24 hours, although the first battery lasted for 36 hours, which I was really impressed by. But, I would plug it in for a maximum of 24 minutes, and I would get an average, if I had to do just cocktail napkin math, maybe 25 hours after charging the phone for 18 minutes or so. So, I mean, that's crazy. And it's awesome, and it's really great, and I really, really love it. And I've tried to live that life with, like, I'm most recently I've been using the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra and the Honor Magic VS, and I've tried to live that life, like not charging overnight, and it's okay. The Honor Magic VS in particular actually has fast charging, but I can't use the fast charger that's shipped with because it's a European fast charger. But I can I work at a desk, so I can plug in both of those phones,
Right.
while I'm working. It's really not that big of a deal. But if I had to go somewhere in a hurry, that would be a problem.
I'm
but,
kind of like
yeah.
you though. When you have a phone like this and you're trying to review it, and then if you have a lifestyle that, like, as an example, you and I pretty much both work from home.
Yeah.
You even more exclusively than I do, except for when you go out to shoot and things like that.
Right.
But between having a giant battery, in this case with but I could actually say the same thing to some extent with my Apple too, with my iPhone too, that, when it's not plugged in, it's in my pocket or it's on my desk. I have chargers that are, excuse me. Oh, that was not fun.
Is it time for the second or third wave?
It feels like it. Yeah, it's my stomach is burning. But so between those, like I've got a charger just about everywhere I look. Not that I am charging it, but I'm never wanting it. So it's not like I ever really have battery anxiety anyway.
Right.
But when you have the super efficient Snapdragon 8 Generation 2,
you have it even less.
The big battery, and then I use Android Auto or CarPlay when I'm in my car, and I don't have wireless CarPlay or Android Auto, so I'm plugging it into a USB cable, which is also charging it. My point being, it's almost impossible for me to run a phone down,
right?
Because I don't have a battery regimen. I'm like the benefit of the Doud standard, where I'm sure you have this thing where I stick it and I watch the same video and then I benchmark it and then I see how, it's just not something I do. I always kind of, because benchmarks just feel artificial to me.
Right.
To some extent. But yeah, I think maybe once I've run this phone down to like 10%.
Okay. And even when you do, plug it in for 15 minutes and you're good to go.
When it was 10%, I literally just walked across the room to where the charger is, stuck it on there, and even if it doesn't get to 100%, I'm at 80% in like 20 minutes ish.
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
And the other phone that you have that has that is that Red Magic
Yes, that's right.
phone that you reviewed for the channel. And I have a Red Magic phone here, which I use pretty much exclusively for my gaming, except when I'm testing a phone. But it'll get to the point where, like, I okay. TMI, but I do a lot of gaming in the bathroom. So it'll be like, oh, I think I need to go to the bathroom. Oh,
I might
the
after this.
the gaming phone is at 15%. Okay, well, I'm going to plug it in and I'm going to edit one more article, and then by the time I'm done with that article, it's at 100%. It's like it's having fast charging like that is a fun experience, and I highly recommend it if you don't have a Samsung phone or an iPhone.
And
but
the OnePlus 11 is one thing I've noticed, because I've been playing this new game. I want to touch it with my right hand. The problem is that my fingerprint sensor is the it actually read my blue finger. So
oh, there you go.
I look like I just voted in Afghanistan in 2005.
I don't get that joke, but okay, we'll go with it.
Well, there was
you don't have to explain it. If you have to explain it, it's not
so much of a joke as just it was a thing. But Pocket Cities 2, highly recommend Pocket City 2. Really fun, sort of a SimCity-ish game.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's not a graphically demanding game, but it's a lot of fun. It's one of those that you keep coming back to and manage the same thing that you've been working on. It's not like a end-to-end kind of thing where you just play, you get in and get out. Anyway, but playing that game, my phone does not get hot at all. And it honestly doesn't even really get hot when it's charging.
Right. No, yeah, it
is
really
surprising.
Doesn't. It really doesn't. Yeah. So I think let's go ahead and wrap things up. Let's kind of give our overall, high level view of the phone. And I will start with you. What are your final thoughts here?
Well, I think I can just say that, as I mentioned previously, I had said maybe a little over a year ago, after my experience with the OnePlus 9, might have been 2 years ago then. Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Something
like that. It was, but I was on this podcast, and I said I probably won't ever buy a OnePlus phone again, and here I am, not that long afterwards with one, and I'm really happy with it. So I'm happy because it does seem that like OnePlus is listening to their users. They're stepping up in the places where it matters, and they just continue to make a better and better product. And I definitely would recommend this phone for, I mean, honestly, unless you just don't like big phones.
Which is legit.
Sure. And this, I mean, it is, even though it's narrow, relatively speaking, it is still a tall phone.
Yeah.
Not heavy though, even with the case on. It's pretty lightweight. But I have not moved out of this phone since I moved into it, so that probably says all you need to know.
Yeah, for us, that's kind of a big deal. So, all right, yeah, and my review for this phone said don't sleep on this flagship, and I think I stand by that. It's a surprisingly good phone. I want to say the same thing. Like right around the OnePlus 9 era, I had just started up this podcast, and I'm just like, man, I really should buy the OnePlus 9, but I really don't want to because OnePlus phones have never really impressed me. And, that was when Android Central, lent me theirs, which I very much appreciate. And that phone was okay, but like the OnePlus 10, OnePlus 10T, and OnePlus 11, I have all found to be, frankly, pretty delightful. I mean, the OnePlus 10T had a problem with timing because it came out right after the OnePlus 6A and right before the OnePlus 7. So it was kind of in a weird place when they launched it. What did I say? Did I say OnePlus? Whoops. Yes, the Pixel 6A and the Pixel 7. So it was in kind of a weird place when it launched. But like the OnePlus 10 and the OnePlus 11, I have found to be very delightful phones and, solid contenders. Again, like you said, an easy phone to recommend, unless, of course, for whatever reason you don't like a big phone or you want wireless charging, which I want wireless charging, to be honest. But I mean, like, that's really the only major downside I can say about this phone is that it doesn't have wireless charging. And, quite frankly, I think the numbers bear it out that most people probably don't care all that much about wireless charging, but I do because I have one wireless chargers every freaking where. And between reviewing the OnePlus 11, the Honor VS, and the Honor Magic 5 Pro, which does have wireless charging, but the coils were positioned in such a way that I couldn't put on a MagSafe adapter. Like, those 3 phones all drove me nuts because I have a MagSafe charger in my car that I was dying to use, because you just stick your phone to it and you're good to go. And I've been very happy since I moved back into the
I'll
Samsung.
put it this way. I'll put it this way.
Mm.
I was very annoyed with this phone not shipping with wireless charging, but with everything else spec wise that it gave me, I at least thought, well, I think I can live without it, because I still like wireless charging. It's just slow. And I never really thought about it as being slow until after I had this crazy fast charging. So now if you were to put a gun to my head, so to speak, not actually asking for that, I've already had a fire enough experience as it is. But
indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
You've had a fiery experience.
Indeed, I have. And if you did that and made me choose between wireless charging, or especially for if more phones ship with this, with the 80 watt or faster charging, I would choose the 80 watt charging, especially with the big battery, because it really is game changing in the way you use your phone.
I think that is a topic that's going to have to wait for the next Doubting Thomas, because I have some feelings about that. But why don't we go ahead and wrap up this particular episode of the podcast, because I think it is time.
I'll do one more thing before we wrap it up.
Okay. Crushed it. You did. You really did crush it. I am very proud of you. I honestly thought this was going to go a lot differently than it actually did. But now that Cliff has actually crushed it, that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button so you can be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. And if you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes, but most of all, and as always, I would like to thank you for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.